The story begins with Gumiho origin tale, told by a monk to visitors of his temple, as he refers to a wall scroll upon which an old woman and a fox have been painted. This drawing depicts the story of a Gumiho who wanted to become a human. As the monk speaks, the fox drawing turns human, and our Miho comes to life from within the picture, floating down to earth in human form to live amongst the people. However, such was her unearthly beauty, she sent men sprawling at her feet, gaping in awe everywhere she went. Every man who saw this girl was amazed by her beauty. Others fainted completely. Men fell hopelessly in love with her, yet none were ever loved in return. The men went positively mad for her, and this became problematic. The ladies from village didn't like it. Believing that Gumiho's attraction lay in her nine tails, they prayed to the old woman in the scroll, the god of birth or grandmother spirit, to get rid of that girl. The grandmother spirit, trying to resolve the chaos, decided to find Miho a husband, thinking that if she married, peace would return. A man was chosen, and Miho eagerly prepared for her wedding. But before she could even fall in love, her secret was exposed. The beautiful woman captivating the village was, in fact, a fox spirit, a creature deemed unworthy of marriage. No mother wanted her son anywhere near the Gumiho. They claimed she devoured men's livers, hoping that consuming 100 would make her human. Terrified by the tales, the groom fled, and Miho was left alone at the altar. Still, she waited there, convinced that, with the vibe of the village, surely another man would come. But no one did. Everyone feared for their lives. Heartbroken and humiliated, Miho cried bitterly. To end her suffering and protect the world, the grandmother spirit decided to cut her nine tails and imprison her within the painting, where she would remain for eternity, invisible to human eyes. Even after 500 years, legends say her spirit still lingers in the wilderness, unseen by the naked eye. Now, let's return to the present day. In a modern world outside of high school, we meet the same girl from 500 years ago. Gumiho stands glowing with charm and cheer. The moment she spots Cha Daewon, she beams and waves with joy. But instead of being thrilled, Daewon panics. He spins around, fakes a phone call, and bolts in the opposite direction. He's trying to shake her off, but you can't outrun a Gumiho. Seconds later, Miho appears right in front of him. She brushes off his weak excuse with a smile, but then leans in and says something unsettling. "If you didn't want to die, you wouldn't have lied to me, right?" It's not exactly a threat, but it's her way of saying, "Don't mess with me." Charming, but terrifying. She grabs his hand and excitedly pulls him toward her newest discovery, a restaurant serving fresh beef. Miho is obsessed with meat, and being a supernatural creature, she's got quite the appetite. Unfortunately for her, Daewon can't afford it and refuses. So she playfully threatens, "Then I'll eat you instead." She starts singing about eating Daewon's side dishes. He panics. So how did a 500-year-old fox spirit and an aspiring actor cross paths in the first place? Let's rewind to earlier that day. Cha Daewon, an aspiring actor, is filming a demo video with his friends at action school. He's full of swagger, jumping through the air on wires, swinging swords, all in the hopes of impressing a casting director. He brags about nearly landing a role and buys everyone ice cream like he's already a star. He even heads to his grandfather's salon for a hair makeover, until Grandpa finds out and flips. Daewon pretends he'll pay, then dashes out without spending a cent. Later, he speeds away on his flashy new motorcycle, paid for with tuition money furnished by Grandpa, who needs an education when you're just about to become a movie star. However, he is pulled over by a cop because Grandpa has reported the bike is stolen, so Daewon is hauled into jail, where his big worry is that his hair will be overpermed. His aunt Min-suk bails him out and takes Daewon's side, as she's more lenient than her father. Grandpa's done being lenient. He decides to ship Daewon off to a strict countryside academy. No more acting dreams, it's time to become a real man. He orders him to re-enroll in school. Daewon protests wildly, "What about my audition?" Grandpa is unmoved and says that until Daewon becomes a person, meaning a mature adult, he's grounded. He means it, and won't even let Daewon out of his clutches to go pee. This will not do. Daewon offers up one shoe as collateral that he won't run away, and that buys him a little space when they drop by a rest station. He hides himself in an empty garbage bag, so when Grandpa comes searching for him, he assumes Daewon fled out the window. Grandpa yells in frustration, and Daewon sneaks onto the back of a grocery delivery truck. Escape complete! The truck drops him off near a remote mountain temple. It's dark, raining, and his phone's barely getting signal. A kind monk takes him in for the night. Daewon borrows his cell phone to call his Aunt Min-suk and tries to guess her phone number. There is no network in these woods, so he holds up his phone and wanders in search of a stronger signal. This takes him to the isolated temple that houses the painted scroll. He finally finds reception just outside the building and tries a few more times to call his aunt. He gets a wrong number. The last caller asks him not to hang up, so he stays on the line. She makes a few curious remarks, like how he looks better with his hat off. With growing dread, Daewon looks at his phone. It's off, but the voice is coming from it. What's going on? He starts to edge away, but she warns him that if he runs, she'll be very angry. She has a task for him to do and invites him inside. She remains invisible to him and speaks to him mentally via his phone, which is why he can't locate the source of her voice. Miho directs him to the scroll and tells him to draw 9 tails on the fox. He resists fearfully, but she orders him to hurry, so with a lot of misgivings, he starts to draw. As he does, nature senses a disturbance. The skies thunder and the watchdog barks furiously. The monks realize something is wrong and hurry to the Gumiho's temple. When Daewon finishes drawing, Miho is finally free, and boy do the heavens protest. The storm freaks Daewon out and he runs, only to fall down a rocky hillside. He lands hard and is knocked unconscious. Miho finds him there and peers down at him curiously. He won't wake up, so she decides to help. He drew on the painting for her and could become useful, so she may as well save him. Leaning over him, she breathes a mystical energy into Daewon, which she calls her fox bead. As she does, we see her 9 tails gleaming in the moonlight. In the morning, Daewon awakens in an odd position. He's hanging on a high tree branch and only remembers up to the part where he fell down the mountainside. When Miho approaches, he doesn't recognize her, even when she tells him they met last night. Oh, by the way, I love Miho's explanation for why he's hanging in the tree. She says matter-of-factly, "The boar wanted to eat you, so I put you up there so he couldn't." She's adorable. However, a few key phrases triggered Daewon's memory, and he realizes she was the girl on the phone. He freaks out, thinking her a ghost, but touches her cheek and confirms that she's human. She takes that as a compliment. Do I really look like one? Now he grows indignant, believing that she was playing a prank on him the night before. He leads her back to the temple to confess about the scroll, which he considers mere vandalism. Miho speaks honestly, but the story is so fantastic that Daewon interprets her words in more mundane ways. For example, she complains that she doesn't like that temple she got locked up there by Grandma and finds it excessively tiresome. Daewon interprets that to mean that she's a troublemaker who is serving punishment. He asks how long she was shut in the temple, and she answers, 500 years. That stops him short, so he asks for details, and she supplies them. The grandmother spirit is the well-known story, and she introduces herself as a Gumiho, so he guesses she's spinning tall tales or crazy. She explains that she helped him too. The reason he isn't in any pain is because she gave him her fox bead, which is in his chest. She reaches under his shirt to point it out, and he pushes her aside, convinced she's literally insane. He says she should have 9 tails, and she answers that they're only visible in moonlight. Enough is enough. Daewon heads off on his own, directing her in the opposite direction, and starts walking. Only, remember that pig Miho mentioned? It comes back. Despite Daewon's deep wish to be rid of the crazy girl, he can't just leave her to the pig's mercies, and he comes back to get her. She's not the least bit scared of it, but he grabs her and starts running. Meanwhile, a mysterious man named Dongju arrives at the temple ruins. He seems to know Miho has escaped, and he's not happy, murmuring that he'd taken all these precautions to make sure she stayed locked up. In the nearby town, Daewon separates from Miho and sells a necklace for some cash. He surmises that if his grandfather pays his school tuition, he is safe to return home. He calls his school and gets the confirmation, which means he is free to return to Seoul. Miho perks up her keen ears to pick up the details of his phone call and starts to follow him. Daewon assumes that he can ditch her freely since she doesn't know anything about him. So when she calls out his name, he's shocked. She recites the list of personal details and asks for him to buy her lunch. Sigh. He's stuck with Crazy Girl a little longer. He takes her to a grill restaurant where she eagerly anticipates her first taste of meat in 500 years. She almost takes a bite of raw meat, but exerts her self-control to refrain. She has worked really hard to appear human. And that's not human-like behavior. Humoring her belief that she's a Gumiho, Daewon notes dryly that his grandfather's always telling him to try harder to seem human himself, as in, be a man. That's one thing they have in common. He asks after her family, only to hear she has nobody. That makes him feel an unexpected pang of sympathy for her. It's another point in common. He excuses himself to go to the bathroom, but in actuality slips away, rationalizing it since he bought her lunch. When he doesn't come back, Miho goes off in search of him, then marvels at all the chairs in the bathroom. She opens up one porcelain throne, marveling at its beauty, then decides it's a well, and she happens to be thirsty. To my great relief, she decides that it's a pretty well, but not very clean. Meat is a different matter, however, and when she drops it into the bowl, then accidentally flushes it down, she flips out. No! She starts to reach in to retrieve it, but catches the scent of her pursuers in the air, the monk, Dongju, and policeman, and hurries away. Dongju hears that the girl was here with a young man whose description sounds a lot like that guy at the temple last night, and guesses that they're together. Once he fixes the monk's broken phone, he can see who he called and track him down. To be fair, he has never seen her, but he trusts that he'll be able to identify her from her beauty and her aura. Daewon is eager to take the next bus back to Seoul, only to be followed there by Miho. He thinks she was stalking him, all this while not believing her explanation that she followed his scent. She declares, I like you. I'm going to follow you. Now he's really exasperated and accuses her of being a scary stalker, a type of person he is well used to because people are always clinging to him for his money. He sneers at her story and mocks her explanation of being a Gumiho, and his meanness hurts her feelings. With one last patronizing comment, he turns to leave. In a hardened tone, Miho vows to get him to believe her. Then you're dead. That's unsettling. He takes the bus back to Seoul and heads to the action school, but he's filled with paranoid fear and imagines that Miho is lurking around every corner. Now, it's with relief that he meets up with his friends Sunyo and Byung-soo. The former is eager to please her crush and gives Daewon the keys to the building so he can spend the night there. It's only now that Daewon sees the horrible injury to his back, which looks incredibly painful. He hadn't noticed because it didn't hurt, and now he recalls Miho's explanation of her fox bead's power. Daewon starts to confide his strange experience to Byung-soo, saying that he met a weird girl who called herself a Gumiho, then recalls that she made him promise not to tell. Byung-soo warns him, half-jokingly, that if a Gumiho tells you not to tell, you'd better not tell or risk death. Daewon tries to shake it off and starts shooting some hoops. But when the ball rolls away from him, it rolls back. He convinces himself that it bounced off a wall, which is when many more balls start rolling toward him of their own accord. From the shadows emerges Miho, who has tracked him here as promised. Nervously, he gives her a weak thumbs up at her proficiency, and she reminds him that she said she's a Gumiho. She looks up at the sky and announces that the moon is about to come out. Now she can prove it to him. She steps into the moonbeam as clouds part and reveal the moon. And sure enough, when she faces him, there are 9 mystical tails floating in the air behind her. Daewon is stunned. Miho tells him, I am a Gumiho. Give me back my fox bead. With that, she approaches him and leans in to retrieve it. She steps closer and closer. But remember, without that bead, Daewon would be dead. Subscribe for part 2